Welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette. This show is about the life lessons that shape us, what I've learned, what I'm still learning, and how we grow through challenge, awareness, and purpose. I will share personal insights to motivate and inspire you, and sometimes invite guests who do the same. At its heart, Life Talk is about real stories, real growth, and meaningful connection. This is Life Talk with Mariette. Motivational, inspirational, full of heart. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Camera. And today we're talking about something every one of us uses every day, and yet most people have never truly studied it. Our voice. Not our words, our voice. Your voice speaks before you do. What people hear, feel, trust, and remember before your message even lands. That's what we're going to talk about today. So that sound people hear before we even finish a sentence, the voice that can calm someone, attract someone, sell an idea, comfort a child, or sometimes push people away without us even realizing it. Interestingly, this show came to life after a conversation I had with a representative from GoDaddy. He had one of those voices you instantly notice, warm, present, easy to listen to. As we talked, he shared that he had served in the United States Marine Corps, where he had to give presentations. Yet he admitted something many of us can relate to. He never really listens to his own voice, because I told him right away, what a radio voice you have. And that got me thinking, how can something so powerful be something so rarely studied? We rarely study it. So this leads me right into my first segment. So let's begin with segment one. Let's just say that we spend our whole lives hearing ourselves from the inside, but the world hears us from the outside. So let's see what this is all about. The voice we never hear. Wait, do you really sound like that? Do I sound like that? Why do so many people feel uncomfortable hearing their own voice for the first time? Well, why do you think? In the old days, we did our own answering machine recording, and many people said, oh, that doesn't even sound like me. No, that's not, So they had to redo the message over and over again. And some of them were not fazed by anything. Some said, I sound horrible. And most of the people I have talked to and I have worked with, they don't listen to their own voice. Well, why not? I will ask them. Well, I don't like my voice. And then I really have to press them almost to really, what is it? I just don't like the way it sounds. And you know what? You're right. You have such a monotone voice. You're not in a position, you're a great person, but you're not in a position to excite people or anything like that. So that's just the way it is, because we cannot disguise our voice. And even if we disguised it, it's noticeable. It's noticeable for the listener. Absolutely. So most of us spend our entire life hearing our voice from inside our own head. Inside the body, sounds travels through bone, tissue, and vibration. So it sounds richer, warmer, and often deeper to us. Then one day we hear a recording. Recording, now it comes. And suddenly it sounds thinner, sharper, or different. It can feel almost like meeting a stranger. What's interesting is everyone else has been hearing that voice all along. So the discomfort usually isn't the voice, it's a surprise. Why do some people avoid listening to the recordings of themselves, even successful people? Well, why is that? Because a voice can reveal more than words. It can reveal nervousness, insecurity, rushing, breathlessness, aging, uncertainty, even excitement. Some people are comfortable speaking, teaching, selling, or leading, but they've never truly studied how they sound. That former United States Marine Corps, the representative I was telling you, with GoDaddy, um, spoke with is a perfect example. He learned how to deliver a message under pressure, but may never have stopped to ask, how do I actually sound to others? Many performers focus on the mission, not the mirror. And when I said you should really listen to your voice, yeah, I know, and people have told me, and I said, well, you have to enjoy it. So then I got into a discussion deeper with him. And he had a great personality, picked up on humor, and was just very kind. He really was a very kind soul and with a wonderful voice you would want to listen to all the time. And I told him, I said, I know what I know what I'm talking about. I said, it's a gift of God. And that's how I feel about my own voice too, because it shows everything. It shows how I feel, how I think. It shows everything. It's just like when you listen to a voice, you're looking in the mirror and you see everything. It's amazing. Can your voice tell you things about yourself that you may not realize? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Your voice can tell you if you're rushing through life, carrying tension, holding back emotion, trying too hard, or lacking confidence. And this is what I'm saying as a radio broadcaster for over 20 years now, TV host and so forth. Um, People hear if you have confidence or not, or if you're faking it, if you're winging it. It's how you say something. People can hear if you're prepared to the hilt because you're right on point all the time. Um, and people just hear it and not make up some silly answer. I hear it all the time. They get on air and they rush like crazy. Okay, maybe they didn't have time to prepare or they thought they could wing it. And then they talk faster and they rush through it. And then it takes them almost 30 seconds to formulate a question, or the question is longer than the anticipated answer. And I say, why don't you shut up and let the guest answer and not you talking? I hear it all the time. I can't stand that. I don't do that. So, but confidence is a big thing, and you should not place yourself in an environment where your voice can be seen and heard. This is what I mean. If you don't know about topic, if look, we can't be experts in everything. So you have the experts with you. I'm not an expert on health. I'm not a technical expert, not at all. So I am an expert in many other areas, such as personal growth. I wouldn't call myself an expert because I don't have a license to be a therapist, but I can certainly hold steady with a therapist and a behavioral specialist. Absolutely. I worked my entire life. I don't have the diploma hanging on the wall. But in conversation and analyzing cases and everything, I'm right there and I know what I'm talking about. So I never dance on platforms I don't know anything about. So, so sometimes people say, man, I'm fine, but their voices says I'm exhausted. Others may sound overly cheerful while underneath there's stress. The voice often reveals what the mind is trying to manage. True. And it's like this. I watch my own behavior all the time. So, in the past, I would get on the telephone, and then, every day I use the phone, talk to clients, or handle my own affairs, call somebody up, let's say the telephone company, and the first word out of my mouth, and I think I'm in a good mood. I'm, everything. I, didn't have a situation where somebody made me mad or anything. So I get on the telephone, and just the way they respond to me shows me what mood I'm in. I did this about 2 or 3 times. And then I said, uh-huh, it really reflects back, it mirrors back what state of mind I'm in. And it's true. Even though we don't realize we're in a different mood every day. I'm very steady, even keel. But that has different phases too. Sometimes you're a little more excitable, sometimes you're a little laid back. I tell you, it never fails the reaction of the other people. The sound of my voice is different. That's what it is. Like right now, I'm smiling, and you can hear that in your voice, in my voice too. But I recognize that, and I take all of this very serious, and I care about how I sound very much. Now, here it comes. Does age change the voice? Well, I did a little research, so this doesn't come from my knowledge. Yes, the research says, and often in ways people don't expect. As we age, breathing patterns change, posture changes, muscle tone changes, and even confidence changes. Some people become softer, others become sharper or louder. And speaking about louder, have you ever noticed people that have hearing problems? They speak louder, they almost scream. And I have a situation like that where I work with this individual. Well, he was, he's a tall man, and he has, his voice is very loud and present, you know. But I never knew that he has hearing problems. I found that out after 14 years. Not that I have a problem with it, but I've noticed at least three other people in my lifetime I had on radio. One didn't even have a hearing aid, and I could only have him make presentations. We could not have a conversation back and forth, question and answer type, because he couldn't hear on that particular side. So I had to make a presentation. I never forget that. And there are reasons why people don't want a hearing aid. It's a psychological reason. I had another gentleman, he was in his 60s at the time, and we got him an hearing aid, and we filmed on location. It was in Hamden at the time, with an ear doctor, and had Jim was his name. He passed away since. Jim, we had him put in the chamber, in the hearing chamber, to have him evaluated and everything. And we got him an hearing aid, which he never wore. It's just incredible. To me, I started analyzing why people are not wearing hearing aids. And I came to the conclusion it's really a lack of a desire of wanting to participate in the world, in your environment, what's happening. Another lady, I worked with her for a while, and she's in sales. And she kept asking me, what did you say? What did you say? And I said, Joan, I will call her. That's not her real name. Joan, I'll call her. I said, Joan, you have to get a hearing aid because you're in front of clients, or potential clients. You can't keep asking, what did you say? What did you say? We can't do that. She got a hearing aid. Really did get an hearing aid. And I was happy that she took my advice, because it's just unacceptable. Hearing is very, very important to us. But just from these four people that I, um, met personally and worked with, it's a lack of interest in participating in life. Today, they have hearing aids. You can't even see it. What do you have to admit to yourself? But then again, I am guessing. I never asked them why, because they wouldn't tell you, wouldn't get a true answer anyway. But it could have big psychological problems. But now let me just move over to teeth. I remember a good friend of mine, she also passed away. She had a gum disease. Now I'm talking about teeth now. And she had all her teeth pulled. She had to do that because of the gum infection. And then she had temporary teeth put in. And do you know, she never had permanent teeth implement, put in. And she went through psychological problems with having denture. Oh my God. I think I like to interview um, denture wearers and different things and what they're going through, but it has to be on that level. And it's just, it's part of life. But again, with um, temporary dentures, you can't even bite into an apple. Well, then she knew how to live with it for years. She didn't want to spend the money. No, she got rid of her gum disease. She had beautiful teeth, by the way, and her smile was just, it was everything was beautiful. No, no, she just, and she was another one who would talk about things. Okay, folks, okay. All I know is your eyesight, your hearing is so important to me. My voice is so important to because my voice is my tool. I work with my voice every single day. Okay, let's move on. Um, okay, so we learned that with age, the breathing patterns, the muscle tone, things change. People become softer, other become sharper, louder. We said that. Some develop more wisdom in their voice because life has shaped them. The voice ages just like the body, but it can also gain character, warmth, and presence. I like that. Okay. So we have something to look forward to. I like voices. I think we all do. And I've had, when I was on radio, I had people call in and say, I listen to you all the time, Marietta. When I get up at 7 o'clock to go to my night shift, I would stand in front of the mirror and get ready, prepare myself to go. And listening to your voice, it's just such a soothing thing. And you remind me of Shirley Temple. And I said, I do. I don't look like Shirley Temple, but I had people say that several times. And you know what? I have confidence. And I earned this over my lifetime, the confidence. It took me about 4 years on air to sound just like I do in a real person. So I don't sound any different on air than off air. And I worked very hard at this because it shows everything and my own comfort level too. I had to work on my own comfort level. So when that mic goes on and you're on the clock, that's it. And you better be prepared and you talk and bring guests in and it's practice, practice, practice. So, but also I constantly listen to what I produce. I listen to my production because at times different things happen, with the guests and there's somebody. Now, get this, somebody comes in late into the room, into the studio or into the production recording room, and we're in full swing with the discussion, and now they're coming in waltzing in. That's a disruption. And it's not the first time they're doing it. So after the second time, they're out. By the way, I can't have somebody come in constantly late. Or other things happen on the set where I feel my flow is interrupted internally and I'm actually getting mad inside. So I always check when I listen to it. Oh, did it show? Did that part show? And no, it didn't. Oh, good. Or um, when I misread something or whatever, because we're not flawless. We're not. And even though I'm a stickler for preparing and putting numbers on my notes and everything so I don't mix them up, things do happen. And especially when we have a bad connection, that means you have to immediately start working with it. And um, those are all disruptions that can show in your voice because you're distracted by it. You know, you have to handle the flow of the conversation, and at the same time, what do you do about the sound and this, that, and the other? So this is what I'm saying. So, but look, I'm not trying to be 200% perfect. I'm trying to be authentic. And it's always good to tell the audience and the viewers that you're going through some technical difficulties and you're trying to fix it. So if they're hearing static or whatever the case may be, echoing, that happened the other day. Um, that's why I'm saying when we record, everybody has to have the right mic, the right headphone sets, because otherwise you have all these unexpected noises that doesn't need to be. Okay, let's move on. Can listening to your own voice become a personal growth exercise? I say yes, without a question. Imagine listening not to judge yourself, but to learn. Do you interrupt? Do you rush? Let me stop right with interrupt. You know how many people interrupt? I even interrupt. I have to. And I say it, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. You hear me say that because um, I have to put something in there as I'm interrupting you right then and there that is so important. Uh, and I couldn't put it as in, into as you're moving on with your presentation. I can't put it in any place else. So it has to be there are points of interruption that are important. Some mumble. I can't take that. Are you kidding me? Mumble. So speak up, stand up, and open up your mouth and, take a deep breath and let the lungs do the talking. I like to sound warm, not all the time, depending on what I'm talking about. If it's applicable, if it's not applicable, I don't need to sound warm. Do you sound like someone people would trust? I would say yes. Absolutely. When people begin studying their own voice, they often learn much more than how they sound. They learn who they are becoming. I love it. I love it. And do you know, I remember back in school, I don't know, we were 12 or 13. I don't know where we got the recorders from at that time. Recorders was a big deal. Radios, little transistor radios were a big deal. Handheld recorders was a big deal back in the 60s. And we had a project that they asked us to do, going out on the street, starting a conversation with strangers and recording that. And of course, I failed. It was probably a combination because I never held a recorder in my life. It was part of not knowing or being afraid, pushing the wrong buttons, um, and not knowing what to talk to a stranger about. I mean, come on. I was 11, 12. I didn't have, I wasn't schooled in talking to strangers and recording it. I was never exposed to that. So I failed the project. I'll never forget that. Okay, let's move over to category 2. What your voice says before you speak. People hear your energy before they hear your message. Can someone tell if you're confident just by hearing your voice? We said that earlier. Very often, yes. Confidence is rarely about volume. It's usually about steadiness, pacing, breathing, and presence. And only somebody on television that are improvisation stars. We know what the show. We know the show. I can't think of the. What's your line? That's right. That's the title of the show. Now I love these 6 guys. They improvise on the spot, and it's just fantastic. So in real life, I haven't really seen somebody that improvises that quickly and so sharply. But there are people that make things up on the spot. Like you find that with kids many times, right? And they're great, and I think it's funny. But when you talk to people, adults, and they're making statements, and then an audience member or other people, let's see, at work, other colleagues, they're asking questions, and the person really doesn't know how to answer because the person made it up on the spot to begin with. Now they have to make something up, an answer on the spot. And you got to be pretty good at this. So people know exactly, oh, this is what the person went through. He or she is speaking out of their own experience. Oh, they made it up. Or then you have some real artists that just make it up and you just never know the difference. Just to give you an idea, we had one radio show and it was all about, she was a professor from New York and she had written a book about her relationship with her mother who had passed. And I didn't have a lot of time to talk to her prior to coming on air. So it was like a rush job. Um, and she was making a statement that because of her mother passing away, that she feels she's free now. Now I know for a fact, having worked on myself all these years, that just because somebody you had a love-hate relationship with has passed doesn't mean you're free. Maybe you feel free because she is no longer around. You don't have to expect any more phone calls from her. She's gone from this earth. That's what she meant. And I didn't believe a thing she said. And she went, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm free. I'm totally free now." That's what she said. And I said, "You don't even know what you're in for yet. You haven't even begun yet. The internal work will begin and your inners will dictate and life will dictate how you're going to look at this, and if you're going to look at this. So it certainly won't be your choice because during your lifetime, during the rest of your lifetime, you will encounter triggers, different triggers, and you will be reminded of your mother. And then everything will come up again. So you as a professor, um, I don't think so. I don't think so. And from that point on, I if I don't have the ample time to talk to somebody, I won't have them on the show because death will not clear your inners. It's not a button, a reset button that you push. I want you to know that. And I almost wanted to challenge her, but I didn't because that wouldn't have looked too pretty on air. I wouldn't have looked too good. So I let it go. So, why do some people instantly trust one voice but not another? Because the human brain is constantly reading tone, rhythm, warmth, and emotional safety. A voice that feels rushed, hard, distracted, or scripted can create distance. And here's what happened. I saw something on Facebook. It was an advertisement. It was had a picture with an empty beach chair, umbrella, sand, the ocean, and I read the write up, and I said this more or less sounds like long-term care, but it was really an advertisement. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just giving you the scenario. It was really an advertising, an invitation to come to one of their seminars for pre-planning. I said, interesting, has a touch of long-term care. Okay, so here I'm calling the number, and it must have been an answering service because I asked for Joe Schmo. I'm changing the name. That's not the name. So I said, can you tell me a little bit about the upcoming seminar? And he said, no, I can't. Um, but I can leave. Oh, I'm just the answering service, he said. But I can leave a message. Would you like to leave a message? I said, yes, I like to leave a message for Joe Schmo. Okay. Okay. He said, I can do that. Now, then the next question he's asking me, how many are attending? I said, what do you mean, how many are attending? I just mentioned that I like to have a call back. Uh, I like to get some information before I decide to come. And of course, my voice was already irritated because he told me he can't help me. So why are you asking how many are coming? Didn't make any sense. So I kicked up the sound of my voice a couple of notches. Well, I must have ignited him. So I don't remember what he said, but here's what I picked up what he didn't say. He released energy. It was not that he was not polite afterwards, nothing. It was not the words that were wrong that he used after that. It was what he released on energy, and it wasn't pretty. And when I hung up, I felt almost like, when you take um, a handful of dirt and you throw it at somebody's face, you know what that feels like or what it looks like. This is what I felt when I got off the phone. I said, oh, I don't want to have anything to do with them. Oh, I hope nobody calls back. Now, a day and a half went by, and I get a call on a Saturday. And there was Joe Schmo. It's a different name, but I'm using Joe Schmo just here for our show. And he left a message. I didn't even want to answer it. He left a message, and he was the nicest person. I could read his voice. It was authentic. It was nice. Um, and please call me back. This, that, and the other. And because my flags would have gone up immediately. So I texted him and I said, can I call you on Monday? I said, I'm with my family. And he said, absolutely. Anyway, I'm meeting with this gentleman because I already put a a person behind that voice. And I want you to know I can read voices. I'm a super sensitive person. We only have like 15 or 20% in the population that are super sensitive. We pick up things other people wouldn't pick up. So when I hear a voice and I concentrate, it's not what you say, or what. Let's say you can speak on your recorder, phone recorder. We're not in. We're the Smiths. We're not in right now. Have a good day and call us back or don't call us back. Whatever people say, on the recorders. I can put from the tone, the frequency. I can put the person together. If that's a friendly person, a mean person, if they disguise their voice, everything, or if I just don't like them. And I'm never wrong. This is a gift that I have. And the minute I don't listen to it, the minute I start making it sound like, oh, well, this, that, and the other, maybe you had a bad day. No, 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 no. My gift doesn't lie. My gift is never wrong. And the minute I override it, I get exactly what I shouldn't have done. I should have just stepped away from it. So I go by all of that. Highly sensitive person, an HSP, it's called. If you look up H, like in Harry, S as in Sam, P as in Papa, highly sensitive person, that's who I am. I didn't even know, you put a title to all of this till I had a therapist from Westport on my radio program. And she said, she's an HSP. I said, what is that? Oh, highly sensitive person. I said, I've been like that since I was 2 years old. And it's all true. Anyway, so yes, we do trust voices. That's very true. Can a beautiful voice hide insecurities? Absolutely. A voice may sound polished, smooth, even charming, but underneath there may be self-doubt, fear of rejection, or a need for approval. Well, I think that's normal too. You can have a nice voice. Um, Self-doubt. We all have self-doubt, some more than others. Fear of rejection. I mean, I've been in sales and marketing for and a public person, my God, for 43 years. There are times I have fear of rejection. I don't like rejection, but it doesn't let me, I don't allow it to run my life, the fear of rejection or a need for approval. We all have need of approval. It's all nice, some more than others. Some need of approvals are toxic. Look, we're human beings, and some of them are more aware than others. Some have worked on themselves, some have not. So you get the whole archive, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's the way it is. So all I know is I did what I could do in my lifetime and continue to do to become aware, to exercise personal growth, which I have done on a consistent basis, and I'm very proud of myself. Where others have not paid attention, um, and just for that I was able to gain awareness in this lifetime and gain more and more every single day. I'm very grateful that I have lived to experience that. So that's just what I want to say. So um, that's why voice alone isn't everything. Over time, people listen for consistency. Does the voice match the person? That's right. You know, people say beautiful words. They articulate themselves so beautifully. I don't know what books they read or what self-help tapes they listen to or who you name it. And you know, I just go right into your behavior. I listen to the words, I watch the behavior, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's what I do. I'll find out the real person, not a problem. So, anyway, what happens when people talk too fast? Well, fast speech can come from excitement, nervousness, habit, or fear of being interrupted. A listener may feel overwhelmed or disconnected because they have no time to process. Yes, I've had people on, they started speaking a little faster. Nervousness, very different. Also, they slow down when they're nervous. And it's almost like with each word, you know, they're sticking to the each word sticks to the desk like it's sticky, you know, and you can feel that. And to listen to that over time, 15, 20, 30 minutes, that's hard to listen to. People normally turn the dial when you're like that. So um, fear of being interrupted. I probably have experienced that too, but I can't think of the incident right now. The listeners, the listener may feel overwhelmed or disconnected because they have no time to process. I said that. It's true. Often the speaker thinks they're being energetic, but the audience may feel pressure instead. So true. And you know, have you ever noticed in the morning when it takes me about 2 hours to wake up? My mind, my body. I like to sit, I like to feed my cat Mona. I like to make coffee, and I like to sit in front of the TV, not too loud, and I slowly will wake up. So when there's a reporter, and you know they're all on assignments already. It's 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, or they're broadcasting from Europe, the 6 hour, 7 hour difference. They're already going and they're talking real fast and real loud. And sometimes I can't take that because I'm still waking up, but that's all normal. They're not doing anything wrong. But voices that navigate, that stay with us while we're going through a certain process, thinking process, awakening process, driving process, starting our day process, whatever process we're going through, we're highly sensitive to that. I am at least. Can people hear kindness? Oh, yes. Kindness often lives in pacing, patience, softness, and how someone makes space for another person. Some people don't just hear your words, they hear whether you care. Very true. I love that. So let's go for a break and we'll be back in a second. And we're back from our break. I'm Mariette Camera, host of Life Talk with Mariette. And yes, today we're talking about our voices. And we never listen to our voice, right? Do you listen to your voice? I do. So your voice speaks before you do. What people hear, feel, trust, and remember before your message even lands. That's our topic today. And in category 3, we're talking about emotional memory of voice. Oh my God. Yes, you know what comes to mind? Remember growing up, listening to music, our favorite music, and that voice. We know when somebody is imitating um, Tom Jones or some of the really great artists. Tom Jones just happened to pop into my mind. Um, we know when somebody is singing his songs, and they certainly don't. They want to sound like him. Although we have seen on American Idol many people that are very, very talented that have, are sounding very close to many artists or the artists that they're singing, you know, their music. And we just remember voices. It's amazing, but let me stick to my notes. Some voices never leave us. Why do we remember certain voices from childhood? Because voices are tied to emotional memory. A mother, father, teacher, grandparents, coach, if they made us feel safe, afraid, loved, or seen, the brain stores that connection deeply. If you close your eyes right now, I am certain that you can hear your mother's voice, you recognize your mother's voice, your father's voice, your siblings' voices, just the voices, people you came in contact with, your peers, and other voices that scolded you, like teachers. You remember what their voices sound like. And they sounded, I remember this one person, everybody was afraid of him. He was a math teacher. And I could have cared less about math anyway. That's probably why I'm not a math with us, because I hated the teacher. He was a big guy, he had a full body, and he came in and had a deep voice, and he barked. He sounded like he was barking all the time because he sounded like he was pissed off all the time. He was. That Reineke, teacher Reineke was his name. Reineke. Oh my God. No wonder. I probably could have been the math whiz. I doubt it. Let me tell you, I doubt it. But it all depends on, look, and as kids, we didn't have a chance to leave the room. We had to stay. We were, oh my, in the 60s, are you kidding? You would never, you would never, no, you wouldn't dare compare to what's happening in schools today, and what's happening with the teacher and what the students. I don't have to tell you anything. We watch TV all the time, right? We know from TV what's happening in schools. I am glad my daughter is a grown-up person with grown-up children. But look, it's 2026. The world has changed, and respect should always be there. I don't care if it's 1963 or 2026. Why is the respect not there for our teachers? Where does it come from? I think it comes from the home, from the parents. Because there's no such thing as, oh, my child doesn't open up his or her mouth, and in school they're a bully. But look, I've seen many surprises. I don't need to be right on this. I wish I was. But who knows how kids behave? And me as a teacher, if I was in the classroom, this is something I would immediately bring to everybody's attention. I wouldn't put up with this. I wouldn't. So, um, but again, that's not what the topic is. So we do remember certain voices from childhood. So because the brain stores that connection deeply, so we know that. Can a voice trigger emotions years later? Yes. You may hear a laugh, a phrase, or a certain tone, and suddenly you're transported back to a moment in life, good or painful. Voice carries emotional fingerprints. Oh my God, what we're learning today. So it's true, just what I just said with the teacher Reneke, with the math teacher, right? He barked all the time. That's what his voice sounded like. There was not a warm tone in his voice. I think he must have been born that way. He was like that in classroom and outside a classroom too. Some people are just like that. It's the same tone. It's the same tone all the time. And you never know how they feel because it's the same monotone, same thing. Oh my God. Anyway, they don't joke. They don't not nothing. Oh, what we should get reimbursement for that. What we went through in school. Yeah, reimbursement for what, right? So, why can one voice make you instantly relax? Because your nervous system recognizes emotional safety. It's not just the words; it's how those words are delivered. Hmm. Just imagine somebody who's really all nervous and uptight and anxious tells the other person to relax. I have to tell you something. This past Saturday we filmed on location, and some minor things we encountered. And there was one person on the set that I didn't care to have on the set. And instantly, and I thought I had met him before, and I did, and instantly my inner thermometer or odometer, no, not odometer, but let's just say my thermometer went up 3 notches. I was so angry inside that my voice was even raised. So where I'm all calm, collective, everything is architected. We know each step, what to do, what not to do. And this happened on the set. And because that person was on the set, and he won't be on the set anymore, I'll make sure when I talk to the director. I'll make sure that I'll never see his face again because I would never work with him because he is a disrespectful individual, and I never work with disrespectful individuals. So, why can one voice make you shut down? Because some voices carry criticism, impatience, sarcasm, or control. Even if the words seem harmless, the tone can make people emotionally retreat. So true. Look, we all, and this is just one case, it's easy for me to remember. When you have a contract with a big company, let's say a telephone company, and they need to make adjustments on your account, and you have to talk to 223 people about one problem, you know what the outcome is, which is zero. And with each person, you have to repeat your story. You know what I'm talking about, right? So when you open up the new bill, nothing was ever done, nothing was adjusted like they all promised. And before you even dial, you're all on your inner thermometer is up way above 10. So when you get on the phone like that, and this is how you talk to people with an elevated voice. And it's not the words that you say. The words are fine, but it's in the tone. And I have done that so many times. It's amazing. It's not the words, that the words were improper, not at all, but it was my tone. It was my tone. And I have to tell you, and I knew that because when I'm angry about something, and especially this is now the fourth or fifth time that I'm trying, they keep deducting it from the checking account and they owe me over $200 correction. That's what I'm talking about. It's very hard for me not to get to stay calm, in other words. Okay. Why do radio voices become part of people's lives? Because radio voices often show up during ordinary life, during driving, cooking, working, sitting alone. It's a familiar person, it's a familiar friend, a confidant. Oh, you just came into my life. Oh, let me tune in at 10 o'clock Saturdays or 10 o'clock on Sundays because such and such is on. And I like to have them in my life. And that's what the listener thinks. And I really believe that because I feel the same way. I like to tune into certain radio stations to hear such and such. I like to turn on the television at certain times to see such and such because I'm familiar with them. I like them. That's why I do it. Yes. And they become our friends. They don't know us, but we know them. And that's why many times some of these TV hosts, radio broadcasters, people come up to them and they know you. Like strange people come up to me and say, I know you. I listen to you all the time, even though you don't know them. But that's interesting, that feeling alone. Okay, we're almost out of time, but let me go into category 4. Can you train your voice? Your voice can mature just like you do. Well, I never trained my voice. Um, Not on purpose. I just did learning by doing, and I always wanted to sound as best as I could. So, is voice something you're born with, or can it be developed? Both. You're born with natural vocal qualities, but how you breathe, think, carry yourself, and communicate shapes of your voice over time. Your voice is not fixed. Okay. What's the biggest mistake people make when speaking? They focus on what to say, but not how they're saying it. They forget breathing, pacing, eye contact, and emotional connection. That's not easy to handle all at once. Remember how we started driving, with the stick shift? I learned on the automatic. That's how I got my license. Much later in life, not too, maybe a year later, I learned stick shift. And that came out of a situation where we lived in Germany, and I had a good friend, and she needed to go to a hospital for a procedure to Stuttgart. And she said, "Can you drive me there?" We lived in Heilbronn, and can you drive me? I think it was Stuttgart or Heidelberg, one or the other. And I said, "I'm sorry, I can't. I don't know how to drive stick shift." And do you know, shortly after that, I learned stick shift. I never forget that. Um, so, um, when I'm saying we're not talking about cars here, we're talking about your voice, but that was just, it reminded me. So, breathing, pacing really has to be learned. Eye contact. Well, when you sit on air, on radio, well, what's your eye contact? My eye contact is not the audience because I don't see the audience. So, what is my focus as I'm talking? Most likely my notes. And then over to the left is my engineer. I don't know what's to the right, and ahead of me are my notes. So, um, and all of this has to be learned. And it's again, the more you do it, the more you can handle everything. You know, getting back to the car and shifting, steering, shifting down, and the clutch and the brake and the gas, and till that all becomes one. That's a process. And so is this with your voice, that it will become a process. Why are pauses so powerful? Because pauses create space. They show confidence. They allow people to absorb what was said. Silence can sometimes speak louder than words. Yeah, okay, I'll agree. Not too much silence, because as soon as you're in the 4 second mark, it's uncomfortable. Well, are they stopped? Are they getting ready to say something else? I'm always very mindful of that. When I don't know the pacing part of the person, let's say we're new, we're just working together for the first time. So I have to be very, very sharp listening to the person. And so I don't jump in. But 4 5 second pauses are too long. They're too long. And some of them are really 8 seconds, 9 seconds. Well, I would have jumped in by that time already, but that has happened to other people on air. And the listener doesn't know, oh, did they go away? Is there something wrong with my radio, or what's happening? They start moving the dial, you know? So no. Silence on air and spacing is very important, but not too long. How much space do you need? Yeah. So that's why practicing and listening and being really your best critic, and you have to be honest with yourself. You can't, oh, well, this happened and that happened. It's nobody's fault except your own. So, but however, I have to tell you, let's just say we're on air and I'm talking, and that's why nobody comes in the studio. When you're on air and somebody comes in the studio, they better have an emergency to come into that studio, or they're fixing very quickly, adjusting your microphone or a cable, just to make something flow better, because they heard something that I didn't hear, and they're coming in very quickly to make an adjustment. So anybody else that comes into a studio while you're on air should be thrown right out, because it interrupts your speaking pattern and your thinking pattern. I said that before. So definitely no cleaning crew coming in there to empty the wastebasket. That would be fatal. That's right. Anyway, what's one simple way people can improve their voice starting today? Well, record yourself in a normal conversation, listen without judging, notice your breathing, speed, warmth, and clarity. Most growth begins with awareness. And now that you got real discussion material, well, become aware. That's the thing. So, love your voice. And in closing, thank you for joining me today on LifeTalk with Mariette. Tonight, it's nighttime already. Maybe we didn't just discover our voice. Maybe we discovered a little more about ourselves. I really think so. You got to think about it and practice. Because before people remember what you said, they often remember how your voice made them feel. That's it, folks. So, I'm Mariette Camera. I'll see you next time. Be well.